Okay, thanks for joining us today. We're going to give you a preview of our P6-Loader tool, our latest version. So it's our version 13, and it's really a what's new webinar. Now, some of the features we've added are pretty interesting. So even if you've never used Loader or you don't have it, I think you'll still get some value out of this session, even though it's a what's new. So I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald, and I'm joining this evening for me from Calgary. And with us, I have Ravi Wallo from Brazil. He's the lead programmer of P6-Loader and has been with the Emerald team for a long time. So he's been involved with all of our tools, really, as you can see there. And also from North America, Sue Familia is joining us from Wyoming. And she does a lot of the P6-Loader rollouts. So she's very familiar with the tool, and she's the person you can reach out to, as well as Donna, if you have any additional questions or you want to see more. So as I mentioned, today, the focus will be on our version 13 added features. Now, we've added some pretty interesting features. They're client-driven. So we had clients with Loader, and they wanted some additional features for their particular usage, which is often how we add new pieces to the software. So the first one is related to templates, or if you're an old-time P3 scheduler, like I hate to say I am, fragnets. Okay, so I'm going to work through how you can call your different fragnets, your different templates, how you can replace data inside there to make it very, very dynamic when you're building a schedule. Okay, so it can save you a heck of a lot of time. So I'm going to show you the way that you set up the Excel sheet, the way you set up the template in P6, and how they work together to call the data and do all these great replaces. Okay. Now, not only will I create with that template, I'll show you updating and how you could, if your team decides to change the template, which happened to me when I was working with a particular client in the last little while on a mega IT program, you can actually replace and change using updates in the way that the template caller works. Okay, so I'll show you that. And then another big feature that we added is better layout management. Okay, so some of you may be in the Oracle cloud, in the SaaS cloud, the P6 SaaS cloud. Things where you're doing different work and it's not easy to access layouts. Okay, so we've got improvements in the way this works. And also you might have multiple databases that you're looking at joining together. And you may have a lot of layouts in those databases that you don't want to lose. You don't want to have to create them all from scratch because it could be hours and hours of work. So we have improved our layout management. We always had it, but we've made more enhancements, more features to it to make it even better. And again, it was a client who's merging, I think, 10 or 15 databases, Ravi, I'm not sure the number. And they have a lot of layouts. So they wanted to streamline that. It would be probably numerous weeks of work to rebuild them all. Now, not only did we add those big features, we also made a lot of enhancements, again, focused on client requirements and some of the needs that we were seeing when we were working with some of these big clients in the last few months. So I'm going to show you the rate loading sheet. We have quite a few clients using this tool for rate loading, resource rate loading. So I'm going to show that to you and show you the enhancements that we've made to the sheet. So it's not net new feature, but we've made the sheets better so they're easier to work with. And that would hold true for the predecessors and successor sheet, the relationship sheet, as well as the activities, activity sheets, WBS sheets, and several others. Now, some of those changes include better management of the hierarchies and the names and IDs. So in terms of the hierarchies, we're showing more information, so that makes the Excel sheets better to work with. And I'm going to show you that in live action. And with the names and IDs, what you might, if you've used Loader before, what you might find is if you create a WBS, and if the name is too darn long, it wouldn't load it. Okay, so instead of having it not load it now, we actually load it. We chop the name off and let you know a warning that we had to essentially change the name so that it would fit. Okay, so that way you can go and fix it, but it doesn't just not load the data at all. Okay, so we made some improvements like that to make that more usable, more user-friendly, less frustrating if you're loading lots of data. So those are some of the enhancements that we made. And then another big feature improvement is when you load in period actuals. So period actuals need the task to be started, but you might not have loaded in a start date. So we're going to take care of that now for you. So again, it doesn't error out. It actually loads the data and we put in a start date. Okay. So those are big changes just to make it more user-friendly, less frustrating. When you're loading big amounts of data, less things for you to have to cross-check and validate and make sure they all load it properly. And then finally on the codes, activity codes. So we had a roll down feature. We've had that for a while, which is really great because that's not something you can do out of the box. And we would overwrite if there were, I'm not sure if I'm going to say it right. So Ravi, correct me if I say it wrong. If there were codes that were the same. Okay, so we don't do an overwrite. We don't do a replace now. And so just again, to make it a little more user-friendly, make sure that we're accommodating the appropriate behaviors that the clients are looking for. Okay. All right. So what I thought I'd do is actually jump into the tool and show you live how it's going to work. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to P6 and explain to you what I'm going to start with the templating components. Okay. So I have two projects for the version 13 release, just to show you how it works. So I have a template project and I have a project that I'm going to load the data into. All right. So this is the source. This is the target when I show you the Excel sheet. Now I've got both open, so I'll be able to actually explain to you what you're looking at. So I'm just going to collapse those and I'm going to look at the template first. So this particular project has numerous templates. So I've got an IT project template, I've got a capital project template, and you may have different projects with those different templates, which would be fine. In this example, I'm going to show you them both in the same project. So when I talk about a template, I'm talking about taking full advantage of something that you would want to be able to replicate over and over again. Okay, that's what we're looking at. So we've got activities, we've got IDs and names, but you notice I've put placeholders. So these brackets with the number and the XX for text is what I'm trying to highlight there, so that you can replace those. Okay, so these are called placeholders. And again, this is a concept that was in P3 many, many years ago, but it never had this many placeholders. So we have the ability to placeholder many, many times. And I'm going to show you that in the Excel sheet when I do the load. So those are all things that we know could vary. So if we have different packages, different business processes, or different business objects, or build items, or data objects, if you're doing IT work. In turnaround work, it might be different work orders. It might be, if you're doing maintenance, it could be work orders, it could be different events. You know, there's all sorts of different types of packaging. In construction, we might have different engineering packages, different fabrication packages, different construction packages, commissioning packages. So the idea is you want to be able to feed in those variables, but keep all the other stuff consistent. So the other stuff would be the list of activities that you have to do, the base duration of the activities, the calendars that those activities are going to be done on, whether or not you've got, let's go ahead and look at up here. So whether or not you have resources, whether or not you have logic, so the sequencing of work that you've got here in the example. You might have expenses and you might have steps. I think I put them on the construction one. Let me just go down here. Yeah, so you might have steps on each one of these that you're going to have the team update to let you know how far along they are on the engineering package. Okay. Now, if that's something you don't do right now and you're interested in it, you might want to attend one of our CAPS webinars because we show how you can easily update these steps in that tool. Okay, that's another tool that we've built. So you want to take advantage of all this standardization as much as you can because you want your processes to be repeatable and consistent. So you want to take advantage of all the pieces you can inside of P6, but also feed in the variable items. So that's where we're going to be able to use P6-Loader to set up what all those placeholders really are. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab from the source. So from that template project I just showed you, we're going to grab the 3 different times for 3 different packages related to IT. We're going to load those in. So it's going to make the WBS. It's going to make all the activities. It's going to do all the placeholder replacements for me. So it's going to do a lot of stuff, saving me a lot of manual work. Okay. Now, we've got placeholders here for the text and those numbers. So I've got different numbering schemes for my capital work versus my IT work. But I also have placeholders for other things. Okay, so I can have additional text inside of there. I could have different activity codes that I want to replace and push those activity codes into the activity coding structure. Okay, that way, again, I don't have to do all that coding. It's going to do it for me. Now I can create the activity codes for the dictionary at the same time, and that's what this tab is. So this tab is going to allow me to create the list of activity codes. Now, if you're good at Excel, you can easily look those up from this sheet to get them into this sheet automatically. Okay, again, saving a lot of legwork that you would do normally in inside of P6. Okay, so here's some other examples of items that we can create, we can load with the template. So these are different codes. Okay, so the key is just following the naming convention that you have in the template loader, and it will do its thing. And we can also add in user-defined fields at the activity level, as well as the resource level, and the WBS level as well. Okay, in this example, I didn't make any, but you could definitely do that. Okay, so I'm going to load these rows up to this last line. These ones, it's going to ignore. So that's how P6-Loader works. If you put a break line or an empty row, it stops there. And that way, as you're working out your structures and your etc., you don't have to load it all in one big shot. You can do it in multiple loads. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to send all this into P6 using P6-Loader. So P6-Loader, if you've never seen it before, lets us pull data out of P6, and I'm going to do that in a minute. It lets us load data in, so an upload. I'm going to choose the file. And when I do an upload, I have a variety of options here. Do I want to delete anything? If I do, it's a safety net here. You have to explicitly tell P6-Loader to do that. Do I want to insert new things or not? You know, maybe I know I'm just making updates. So in which case I might just leave those on. So these are new features too that we've added in this release just to make it easier for you to control what's happening. So you don't have to be so mindful about all the changes in your Excel spreadsheets. Okay. Now I do have codes and I do have UDFs, user defined fields. So I'm going to keep all those checked. And of course I want to make new items. So I'm going to leave all those on. At the moment, I have no deletes to worry about, so I can leave that off. So it's very simple to load this up. So I go get the file that I was in, and I ask it to go ahead and upload. Okay, so off it's going to do its thing, and it's pretty quick, as you can see. So we got what we're hoping, that it was successful. Now, you might have warnings and you might have errors. Okay, so if that was the case, you'd click inside this detail and it tells you what happened here. Okay, so in my case, it loaded properly, so I don't have really any warnings, but you could. You might have missed adding an activity code to the dictionary, for example. So it would let you know, I couldn't add that code. You're going to have to get it into the dictionary first. So we give you feedback as to what actually happened, and that way you can trace down any problems that you need to fix, and then you can reload. Okay. Okay, so let's see what it did. All right, so I'm going to just close this for a second. So I'm loading it into this project. So this is my template. Just going to close that up, and this is the project. Okay, so I just want you to see that I don't have any of the items in here. So I want to refresh this, and let's see what it did. Okay, so it added these items here. You know what? I think I messed up my order. Maybe not. Okay, just a sec. Let's go back. Okay, so it created the Maximo. No, doesn't look like I did it right. Just a sec. I think it's my fault. Just a second here. Okay, well, let's look at this Maximo one first. Okay, I don't know why it didn't create the others. You know, I think it's because I didn't save this sheet. Let me just resave it. I think I reordered it, and let me save it again, and let me load it back up. I think that's what happened. I didn't resave the sheet. So let's go ahead and do it. But it was quite quick because it only did one package. It should have done a few more. And I think it did tell me in there it only did one or two, whatever it said. Okay, so this will just take a little bit longer. Not a problem. It's just I wanted to make sure it worked before I start it, and I hadn't resaved that. Okay, that looks better. It's taking a little longer. There you go. Okay, awesome. So not a problem. I'm just going to refresh this. So what I'm expecting to see is some more packages here as well as up here. So let's just go ahead and refresh it. And there we go. We're starting to see some more stuff. So how do I know? Because I can see these plus signs. That's my clue that it loaded more stuff. And here we see all the activities that it put in. Okay. So we can see it created a whole package for the Maximo stuff, a whole package for the P6, SAP. So those were the 3 IT ones that I loaded in. And then I had already a few activities inside this project, and then I created all these packages for my construction. Okay, so if you've built schedules, you know, copying and pasting templates, which you can do, of course you can do that, can be time consuming. If you have a large project, it could take you hours, days, weeks to do that copying. So this thing is awesome. It saves you a hell of a lot of time. And when I was working with the client on this program, they changed the template 6 times. So in their case, they changed it quite a bit. So we just deleted everything and reloaded. And we could reload a few hundred packages in a few hours, okay? So it's incredible the amount of effort that we saved by having it. It was a big effort, period, but it saved a heck of a lot of time. And we would have probably needed five to six schedulers to do what 2 people were doing without the loader. Okay, so let's take a look at, what landed in here. So normally what you would do is you'd load it in, you'd reschedule just to make sure it all comes together. You might, if there's logic between these 2 packages, you can start to build that out. But you want to vet whether you're happy with what went in. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's look here. So I have a functional spec, draft, then functional spec review. I've got resources. Now, I see something that's not right. It looks like I've chosen the wrong resource completely. Earthworks has nothing to do with IT. I also see that it looks like I missed a logic tie here between draft, review, and approve. Now, of course, I can go fix that, but if I've replicated it in all of my IT packages, which it looks like I have, that's not good. So I'd have to go and fix this. So instead of doing that, you might take the option of actually just fixing the template and rerunning the loader, okay? So I'm gonna change my logic. I'm gonna link this finish to start. I'm gonna reschedule it to make sure it looks the way I want. Okay, that looks better. It should be a series, a sequence. And this is completely the wrong resource. So it's just completely picked the wrong thing. So it should have been an IT resource doing this work. So I'm going to add that and I'm going to remove this because this is wrong. Okay, so that was a mistake. Just hadn't caught it prior to running this. Okay, so I'm going to save those changes. So you can make these sorts of changes and then rerun your load. Now, I can rerun all 3 of these. I can rerun one of them. There's lots of different ways you can do this. So I'm gonna just put a break in here. So I'm gonna rerun these 3 because I fixed the IT template and I want those improvements to get in. Now you might say, oh my gosh, that's dangerous, to rerun it because I might have started to edit it. And you're right. Okay, so let me show you some of the protections that we've got or choices that we've included inside of the loader. So you get to say, if there's new logic, and there is new logic because I missed that finish to start, do I want to have it go in, yes or no? So in my case, I'm going to say yes. Do I want to delete extra logic? Okay. So if there was some logic changes, removals, do I want to remove them? So, okay, if you're nervous about that, you just say no. In my case, I could say yes. I didn't actually delete any logic. I added logic that was missing. Okay. Add new resources. So in my case, I added the IT resource because it was not there. And I also deleted that Earthworks resource because that was a complete mistake. Okay, so I've got controls on here. So this is something that can be super handy because then you can make some modifications and do bulk changes. Okay, now you've got to be cautious about it. So if you're nervous about it, just take a backup of the projects and run it. And then, you know, if you don't like what happened, pull it back. Okay, that would be the way I would strategize it. Now we have other controllers that we have in here, but these are the main ones that I think I'll show for this evening. Okay, so I made those changes. I want to make sure I save it this time, not like last time, and then I will upload again. So what am I expecting to see? Well, I'm expecting to see that logic will go through and go on to the IT. Let me collapse this. These IT items, and I'm expecting some changes to take place here in the resources. Okay, so let's run it, and then we'll take a peek and see if it's going to work. And same file, same process, upload it, and let it run through. So in my case, I just put a break at the 3rd row. So it should only have 3 rows, which is what we saw there in the messaging. And then I can refresh it and see if the changes take place. Okay, so I can see the logic tied up. So you can see it there. And we can see Earthworks is gone and IT resources is there. Okay, so that's what we want. Now that's one of them. If you want to make sure, you can take a look at the next. Okay, so that looks good. So the logic is fixed, and there was 3 of them. So I can take a look at that one. Same thing fixed. Okay, so super handy, huge potential time saver. Goes way beyond any importing and exporting that you can do out of the box in P6. So if you build schedules and you get lists from engineering, lists from construction, this can be a great way to do it. Okay, and then you can really build your schedules quickly. So when you're a contractor and you're putting out lots of bids, you know, you don't have a lot of time to put those together and sometimes that makes you have to cut corners. So this sort of tool can be awesome, save you a lot of time. Build it in a consistent way, which is super important to align with your estimating group, right? So that things are always aligning. Data management is the bane of our existence when we're in project controls. So consistent templating, aligning data, hugely important. Okay, so we showed you the template loading, the fragnet loading. I didn't really highlight the replacing that it did. So hopefully you saw that. So the packages went in with the names, the numbers, all those packages are in there now. And if I go over here, you're going to see these codes. Now, some of the codes can sit inside the template, but some of them aren't going to sit inside the template. So this is the numbering convention. So that was something we sent in with the loader. And then these notes are things that we sent in with the loader as well. So you can do a lot of stuff very, very quickly with that. And the other benefit is with Excel, of course, you can share that with other non-P6 users. So they can do a lot of the legwork and put the list together of all the work that's going to take place. And they can put notes and things of that nature. So it really starts to spread the work out to make it easier and quicker to build those schedules, especially when you're in time crunches. Okay, now let's touch on some of the other enhancements. So I mentioned that we enhance the resource rate sheet, the relationship sheet, WBSs and activities. Now, this sheet has come from pulling the data out of P6. So let me show you that. So in terms of how you do that, that hasn't changed really very much from previous versions. Now, in previous versions, not too long ago, we added the ability to have your definitions saved. So I'm going to show you the definition for the relationships rates WBS, and I can just load that up. And it will show me what items I'm pulling out. So I want to show you resource rates. So when you see a little pencil there, it lets you know that we can control what data we're taking out. So in this example, I'm just taking everything, but I don't necessarily have to. I can control this by taking some of these fields out and not letting them come into my spreadsheet, because as you can see in our example, we have a lot of fields in here and I don't necessarily need them. And it just adds more stuff for me to deal with in Excel. Okay. So that was already there in previous versions, the control of the base fields, the user defines, so extra fields your company has added to P6, and any codes. Okay, so you can control all that. So I'm taking out the resource rates. I'm taking out the, I don't know if I actually want to take that out. I think I just clicked that by mistake. So let me close that. And what else did I say? I did it again. I think I better reload this sheet. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Let's just version 13. Okay, I'm just going to reload it because I don't take out all those sheets. Now you can. It won't do any harm. It's just, it's going to take a lot more stuff. So let me, there, that's it. I was clicking in the wrong place, my mistake. So I've got the WBS coming out. I've got the roles, the resource rate sheet, as I've just showed you. And I'm asking it to bring out activities and relationships. Now, some of that data is global, but some of it, like activities and relationships, it is specific to a project. So I would need to tell it which project. So that's what this other side is. And I'll click in the right place this time. So I can see here I've got some projects in my P6-Loader EPS structure, and I'm taking out the items that are sitting in demo, okay? That demo project that I've just loaded up. Now, if you don't want to scroll through that, I could have also searched here version 13, and it would filter down and just show the any projects or EPS structures with that version 13. Now I know it's a project because it shows me here the word active, okay? So we have some controllers in there on what it's showing, and it's showing the active projects. Okay, so if I wanted to have P6-Loader go into P6 and go grab all that data and bring it out, this is how I do it, okay? And if it's something I know I want to do more than once, I can save that definition. And I can share it with all the team members or to specific teams, okay? So you might have groups of people inside your company working on certain engineering projects, or in my example, IT can have a team and construction can have a team. So they don't see all these different extracts that other groups are doing. So you can do all that. Then you can go ahead and ask the computer to go ahead and pull that out. Okay, and then it goes through and it grabs all that data and it makes a sheet. So it's pretty quick. Oh, there you go. It's finished. So I can go ahead and download it. I already made the sheet, so it's ready to go. So this is what it would look like. It's the same sort of thing. So we've took out 4 different components of data from P6. So it made 4 different sheets here for me to work with. So let's look at the resource rates first. So what we did here to improve this sheet, in the past, the sheet used to have resource ID and the effective date, the shift, and the rates right here, the prices. It was missing some things that make it easier to work with. So those things are typically in these gray sections. So the gray lets you know it's not data that's going to load back in, but it's informational, helping you use the sheet. Now, the stuff that's going to go back in is, or that you need, mandatory. These are red. And stuff that will go back in, data that will go back in, is in this blue, okay? But so these gray items won't go back when we load it, but it helps you know what the heck you're working with, okay? Because I didn't know what my my resource ID was for my 115-ton crane, okay? So you might not know what these are by heart. I sure didn't. So having the name and the type, okay, because I can filter on these, it really makes it easier to work with. So we made this better. We have many clients using it for this, so we wanted to make that a better experience for them. Now, in terms of what you do with the resource rate sheet is, I might change my rate every single year for my resources, or maybe every 3 months or 6 months. You might have different rates that you use for different kinds of work. All right. So there could be a lot of reasons where you might want to have your rates in there. So this is one example where I'm going to change my rate on my night shift. So not only am I changing my rate, I'm changing it on a night shift, and I'm adding that for 2024. Okay. So this is going to affect your cost calculations in P6. So I'm going to load that back in. Let's look at the relationship sheets. So this is your logic, your predecessors and your successors. So with this client that I was working with, we had a lot of changes taking place. They were changing the roll-ups. They were changing the logic. We did a lot of changes. So we also created level of effort activities that we could control the start and finish and do summaries. So if you've ever worked with that, you know that we need predecessors, we need successors. To do that manually can be very time consuming. Now, we had a good naming convention, so we could do it relatively quickly because I could filter on all of these up in P6, but having to pull the data out and change the predecessors multiple times, this was very, very helpful. But what was not so helpful was we were missing the names of the activities. So again, I needed to know what 110s were. And of course, I started to know them after a while, but having the name just makes this much, much nicer. Not only did we add the name of the predecessor and successor, but we also added the name of the project, okay? Just to make it easier, more user-friendly, because we might want to filter, and then we might want to change the relationship type, for example, or I might want to change all the successors from 130 to 140, okay? So we use this tremendous amount, and it saved us a lot of time building and changing logic. Okay, so these are improvements to the way this sheet works. So those are some big ones. Now, we also improved the way that we give you the hierarchies. So if you've used P6, you know that a lot of coding inside the system is hierarchical, which allows us to do roll-ups from the EPS structure, OBS structure, the codes, activity codes, the resources, roles, you name it, it's almost always hierarchical, which is great. But if you're trying to create that structure, it can be a little tricky. You have to make sure you know what the parent is and what the child is. So what we added here is the ability just to make the whole structure and load that structure. So this is an option. You can run it either way. And in my case, I want it to use the full hierarchy. Now, not only did we give you this as a new way of creating the hierarchy, okay, which in many cases is easier because you know the whole structure, but you don't maybe remember that 010 goes under this string. We also gave you the ability to see what level of the hierarchy you're looking at. Okay, so let me try and explain that a bit better. So hierarchy 1 in my demo project was IT versus turnaround versus capital project. That's the layers that you saw. And you see that in you can see that in this dark green color. Okay. Now, whoops, wrong sheet. Let's go back. Now, this helps you as a user when you're building the structure because you can make sure you've got it right. Otherwise, you would have to do different kinds of filtering and it can get a little tricky. So this makes it much easier to see. So if I want to double check my level 2, okay, my level 2 is Maximal P6 SAP, so that looks right. So you can validate your data before you create it. Okay, so this really goes a long way to making sure that you've got the layers correct when you're building things out. So we added this extra field as well. It makes it a lot easier to work with. And that field is also in your activity list as well. So you can see that I've got activities at layer 2 and 4 of my WBS, and I can filter those down. Again, just to make sure that I've got the right activities in my milestones or in my summary. I can see their milestones and level effort at my level 2. Okay, so that small changes, but very, very usable. Save the users a lot of time in what they're doing in building out the schedule. So that's what this is all about. Okay, now when you load this back up, as I mentioned, we have better control on the name. So if my name is super long, I can't remember how many digits exactly, but we had some very, very long names, and to keep chopping them down to load it in was time consuming. So we improved it to be able to load it in even if the name was too long. That's in the activity as well as in the WBS. It would still load it, it would chop it off, and you can go back and edit it afterwards, okay? You could use a search and replace if you needed to in the WBS or in the name to make those edits, okay? So we made improvements there in the way it lands. Okay, now, layouts. Okay, so first thing I'm going to start with is something that you might use quite regularly if you've already got P6-Loader. So in P6, we have the ability to export layouts. So layouts are all over the place in P6. We've got them at the activities, at the resource assignments, at the project. So you've got different layouts. Now, not only do you have layouts that are global, you have user layouts as well. Now, this is our demo database, and we have a lot of layouts. Most of our clients have long lists of layouts, and they're precious, right? It could take you quite a few hours even to put a layout together and get it just right for your printing, the colors, logos, etc. So you want to make sure that you don't lose those. So I can highlight these and I can export them, and it will go away and it will make me files. Okay, so you can do that. What we added to P6-Loader was the ability to export not only layouts, but you see filters, global and user, layouts, global, user, plus project, global user, global changes, reports. Okay, so I can export all of these in one shot. Okay, so if I'm in charge of administering the database, this can save me a lot of time because I can't even go get user layouts that are not mine. This is going to allow me to go get everyone's user layouts. Okay, so I'm being proactive in making sure that no one loses anything on my watch, and I can go ahead and export those layouts, those filters, etc. Okay, so that's a nice feature that was added. It could save you a lot of time. If people lose layouts, you can get them back. So to get them back, of course, you can import them. Okay, so you can choose the file and you can bring it back. Okay, so I think you get the idea. So that can save you a lot of time. All right, so that's a big potential time saver for your team. Now, on the layout front, we have a lot of clients who use P6-Loader to do database merges or to do database cleanups or to administer their production, their pre-production, their development, their test environments. So we have some clients that have 4 environments for each database. Administering that, making sure all the codes are staying the same and users and layouts, etc. It can be very time consuming. Okay, so we've added features in Loader that help with all that work. It can save a heck of a lot of time. So the first thing you've got to do when you're dealing with any of those different databases is you need to understand anything that has been added to the database, user-defined fields, codes. You need to understand what the names are in each of the systems. So the first thing that you work with is this mapping. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out and I'm going to download it and we're going to take a look at that. So I might have, let me just do that properly. Okay, so it's going to open the mapping sheet. So what I mean by mapping is I have a list of different data elements in here, and there's different things that we have inside the system. So we have user-defined fields, for example. So these are the user-defined fields inside the database. So we have a lot of them, right? Now, that field may be similar or the same, or I might want to merge to another field in another database. So this lets me start mapping those two together. So that's hugely important when you're merging databases, when you're keeping different databases up to date. You want to be able to make sure you've got a good mapping and you understand how this is all going to come together. Okay. So this is a part of the process that you would use if you're doing database merges, mapping. One of our clients, we moved to the Oracle Cloud. They had standalone versions on numerous laptops. So mapping the fields is part of what you're going to need to do when you're bringing a bunch of standalones, in this case, up to a corporate environment. Okay. In their case, it was in the Oracle Cloud, but it could be in your environment. It could be on Emerald's Cloud. It doesn't matter. The point is you got to merge the data and make sure it doesn't crash into each other. And you want that standardization. Okay. So when you're doing things like that, you're going to be able to start to work with the layouts and merge them and make sure that they're coming in correctly. Okay, so that's the process that you would use. So we've got lots of clients who use P6-Loader for this exact purpose. More and more companies, from contractors all the way to large owners, are wanting consistent reporting and dashboarding. and you need consistent coding to make that happen. Okay, I can't call my responsibility code RESP and Sue calls it responsibility. That doesn't come together. We need to make those the same so that we can get that kind of dashboarding. Okay, so this is huge. It's every client that we're working with, that's what they want. They want this standard reporting, dashboarding, so they can compare projects against each other. So it's a big thing that we're working on across the board. Okay, did I forget anything, Ravi, Sue?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so let me go back and let's wrap up. Okay, so I showed you the layouts. Perfect. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet, except for the slides. And as I mentioned, I won't share the slides specifically, but you will get the recording shared afterwards. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat room. Okay, so hopefully you found something of interest in the last almost hour that we've spent together. Emerald has been helping companies with their project controls for almost 30 years. We're just coming into our 30th year in July. And we've always had programmers on our team from the beginning because we were doing lots of integrations and data management from the very beginning. And my background was in claims and disputes. So that's what I did. I was dealing with documents and creating databases and search engines, etc. So it's always been paramount and at the forefront of what we do is to help with data. So we've got a lot of tools. So this P6-Loader is one of them, but we have many others. So please take a look at our website. We've got updating tools, so CAPS and TAPS. We sell Teammember as well, which is Oracle's updating tool. We use P6-Loader for updating. Now, I didn't focus on that this evening, but we have other webinars that you can attend, or if you're interested in updating, ways to make that easier, reach out to us. We also have tools that critique the schedule. So our QA tool, it critiques the schedule right inside P6. So you don't need a third-party tool for that. We have P6 Calculator that does additional things that you want for inside a P6. So we were just building stuff today for a client that wanted steps to automatically update the labor units. And it doesn't do that out of the box. So we were creating their earned value capability and automating it. Okay, so we've got a lot of experience and building tools that should help how you use P6 to make your usage of P6 much more robust, much less time consuming. And hopefully you saw tonight with our Fragnet and template builder that you could build your schedule a lot quicker as well. Okay, with this sort of functionality. So we have other tools too. So please take a look at our website. P6 Reporter is our tool that helps you grab the data out of P6 and create those corporate dashboards. So explore that one as well. And Scrubber is the feature of the upcoming month for June. And that tool lets you pre-scrub or post-scrub, depending on your role, your schedule, so that you don't take in or send out data that you don't want to share. Okay, so that's also an interesting one. So again, all these tools are really driven by our clients, and we've got fantastic clients all across the world. And their needs are what we've been building into these tools. So hopefully you'll find something that can help the way your team works with P6. So I don't see any questions. So hopefully it was clear. and you understood sort of the potential ideas here with what I showed you in Loader. And Loader can do much, much more than what I showed you just this evening. These are the new features we've added in the last few months. And so we wanted to highlight those. If you do see something you want to explore further, please feel free to reach out to Donna or Sue and get in touch. And I'm sure there's ways that we can probably help make your usage of P6 even better within your team. Okay, I'll stop the recording here. And